I want to give a shameless plug, and I want to give credit. It is in Southern California, and the Hemet Unified School District, that I learned the value of academic relationships. And I have taught on 5 continents. I presented my research on 5 continents. I've taught in other states in the United States, and that is something that I bring from the Hemet Unified School District, is how to establish academic relationships with children, how to establish relationships that's based on increasing academic achievement, how to create a school climate or school culture where students want to be there and where students want to learn, and that is the focus of the relationship. And I have seen that to be very powerful, and that is something I try to create when I go to other countries and I'm teaching and I'm consulting, is to bring that understanding that academic relationship, when the child knows how much you care and you have the skills, it's important to have the skills to teach, to increase learning, to base information on data, qualitative as well as quantitative data. You can really go far with that particular child, and you can really make an impact in that family's life. So I just wanted to give Southern California credit for that, because that's where I got it from. And Hemet Unified School District was always supportive enough to allow me to make those kinds of relationships. And so I share that with others all over the world.
And I would echo that sentiment. I think it is a product of a very caring board. We've got phenomenal leadership throughout this entire community. And I think you hit on the key piece, and I think that's the next step for Tahquitz High School. The relationship with the kid is paramount. But the moment you have that relationship, the key then is to match it to expectation.
Exactly.
And when you can take the relationship and match it with the expectation, look out.
Absolutely.
These kids will absolutely perform for anybody. And our job here, I think, from an adult standpoint is, we continue to have conversations as adults about, well, what do these kids need? And it's like, you know what, here's an idea. Take yourself out of the conversation and ask the kids.
Absolutely.
They'll tell you.
Absolutely, and they know.
And you can't fake it. And I think you hit on it right. You spoke to, again, the reason why I'm very blessed to be, especially at this high school, in this community. We are growing. Tahquitz is definitely asserting itself as a very progressive culture, and none of that would be possible without people above me that continue to work and mentor me, deal with my obnoxiousness, and but at the end of the day, know that my come from is we are all about kids.
Fantastic. To our viewers, one other point I want to have Dr. Rowe talk about is a lot of what I'm doing now is blended learning and working with developing webinars, kind of like your flipped classroom, where you actually access some information on your own device and delivering instruction via mobile, via computer, via DVD, and then having students take that information and take it to the next level. And Dr. Rowe here has implemented a bring your own device. And we've been talking about this all over the world. We've been talking about it with India, with Africa, with the UK, with France, with Latin America, how to bring technology into the classroom in a way that's beneficial. Not just while the teacher lectures, sit there and update your Facebook profile or take photos of your friends, but how to use technology as a learning tool. So I'm asking Dr. Rowe to kind of explain how he's implemented this bring your own device, and then I'm looking at how to carry that to Africa this summer. Awesome. So I'm copying off you if you want to know the truth. I'm stealing your ideas.
You're not copying off me, man.
Yes.
I think these again aren't my ideas. They're the kids.
Yes.
The kids, for example, were the ones that discovered polleverywhere.com, which in our first year, one of the big instructional pieces is, especially at the secondary level, is how do we check for understanding? Mm-hmm. There's so much information that we need to cover. How do we know the kids are actually getting it the moment that it's being taught. Because my view is teaching takes place, anybody can get up and present information.
Mm-hmm.
It's the moment that a kid doesn't get it. What you do at that moment to get the kid
Absolutely.
to get it, that's where teaching begins. And the kids had talked about, they had found online, you could do online free polling, where the kid could sit in the classroom, and one of our big strategies was think, pair, share, where a teacher would give us a prompt, you and I then would talk about it, and then we would basically text our response. And in less than 2 seconds, up behind me, the results would show, which gave the teacher instant feedback about where the kids were at that moment, so that instruction could be differentiated. Not, well, does anybody have a question? You know, those are the words that just make you cringe in the back of the room, because you know a kid who's struggling, as I was, isn't going to put their hand up and say, you know, yeah, I'm really struggling on this one.
I want to clarify on that point, because children in developing countries are not allowed to ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
It's considered rude. But what I always try to say to them, if the child is not understanding, it's just as embarrassing, because you assume, especially at adolescence, that everybody else is getting it but me.
Yeah.
So I am not going to raise my hand and say, I don't understand. I may start to daydream. I may
Yeah.
start to be
It'll
disruptive.
manifest
I
differently.
may start drawing. I may
Yeah.
start doing a number of things. But to raise my hand and say, look, I don't get it. What are you talking about? Adolescents aren't there yet. And even adults, we like to pretend like we know. So when you have a program like this where you can do a polling and you can kind of indicate, I'm not getting it, then have this instant feedback, there are a lot of other people who are not getting it, I'm not alone, where do we need to go from here? I think that's really, really important.
And I agree with you 100%. I think the one thing is, I think there are those few teachers, and unfortunately they are few, that when you can establish that level of trust, where a kid could be honest and say, you know what, I don't know. I think you can have an adult who can facilitate a great conversation, where a lot of what you just referred to, we're seeing it as, is rushing kids through algebra that
Mhm.
don't necessarily have the prerequisite skills. And as we continue to move kids through our math pathways, you've got kids that have at certain times seen algebra 4 or 5 times,
Yes.
where the hands aren't going up, and they're just caught up in a process of insanity, doing the same thing over, expecting something different to happen.
Exactly.
I think the blended format with which you refer to, I think, is absolutely huge, and I think it could be good on a variety of different fronts. Number one, nothing is worse than when you have a kid go through a class semester 1, who, and especially freshmen that have made the big transition from 8th grade to 9th grade, a kid coming in who fails, let's say, Earth Science semester
Mhm.
1. Well, the kid goes into Earth Science semester 2, gravitates rather throughout the end of the year, but what do we do with this kid now? Well, you know, Neolithic thinking would be, well, we'll wait till summer school, which there is none anymore. Or we'll throw a canned program at them where they can come and work on the computer. And my argument is, you know what? Because there are certain skills and prerequisites that kid needs to know to be able to be effective in second semester.
Absolutely.
Why could we not have a blended format where it's not just that the kid received an F, but you know what? The kid may have been proficient in this standard, and this standard, but because they weren't in this standard 3 or this standard 4, if we had a blended format where the kid could actually go in, be involved in discussion boards, be involved in group wikis, be involved in prescribed webinars,
Mhm.
all of those things can begin to happen where the kid then would be able to assess in the standard the kid was not proficient in,
Mhm.
and then be able to recoup the grade while at the same time moving forward through second semester, so that when they got to the end of the year, we got there as one, not, well, great, I passed semester 2 because I finally woke up, but now I've got to wait. We can do it, you know, concurrently in a way that exposes the kids to the kind of skill sets they're going to need when they get to college.
Absolutely. And I want to speak on that point, because that's an absolutely excellent segue. And so one of the things that I do, I did research on the brain and how the brain acquires a second language, and I acquired 5 languages in 2.5 years. And one of the ways I did that was by teaching myself the language with technology, because I understand learning styles. I'm a school psychologist by profession. I understand developmental styles. And then I go to the country where the language is spoken,
Mhm.
and I actually teach street children English, and then these street children from ages 5 to 19 or 21, in the evenings after work, they help me with their language.
Awesome.
Yes. And so what I bring to this discussion, as he was describing that process, how do you get there? And I want to speak on that. You look at the developmental age. You don't give a 15-year-old, regardless of skills, the same thing you would give an 8-year-old. It's not appropriate. It has to be interesting to someone at that developmental level. They may lack the academic skills, but socially and emotionally they're 15 and they want to engage in activities that would be appropriate for 15-year-olds. Anything else is going to embarrass them and it's not going to work. The other issue I want to talk about is personality and the role that personality plays in learning. I am an introvert, so I like to read. I like to study. I like to look at things from different angles. I have to integrate information inside before I can produce and manifest. You have to look at the type of learner that you have and how they learn best. So when they do have an academic weakness, you can start with their strength. Start with their strength and build their confidence in that area, and so then they will be able to produce for you. And I think another thing you have to do is you have to assess the child's background. How much information in that particular area, if it's earth sciences, how much knowledge about, what do they know about earth science? And I think we do that by engaging children, and we do that by asking questions as opposed to always seeming as if we have the answers. And perhaps that does take a little bit more time initially to establish relationships with your students. However, in terms of outcomes, I think it's worth it, because once you establish that two-way communication, once you establish the relationship where children trust you, then together you can decide how they can work apart from you and work independently, because we want them to have those independent skills, and how they can work more effectively with you to get where you need to go. So I just wanted to, for our viewers, to understand that this is a common problem, and we talk about theories, but how do you actually break that down and do it? What's the step-by-step process? And that's what I outlined for you.